Hey everybody, what's up? Lars here. Time for review video number 2 for Unit 1. We are going to jump right into it because I'm going to try and make this a real short one, like 15-20 minutes, hopefully. I always make that promise, and sometimes it never happens. But I have the Python shell ready to rock and roll, and look at this. I have some code written for us already. But it's not really code. As you can see, it's all comments, big string. And then I put up the relational operators because today we are going to play around with Boolean variables. A Boolean variable, quite frankly, is something that takes the value of either true or false. Notice that I capitalized those words. Notice that they are orange. Idle turns them orange because they are keywords, okay? So now if I wanted to print, say var1, and I ran this code, it would just say true, as you can see. Okay? So now you must be saying to yourself, that's wonderful. What am I supposed to do with something dopey like that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what we're going to do with something dopey like that. I will say num1 equals 10, and I will say num2 equals 20. And then I will create a new variable. I'll call it var3. And I will say that var3 equals the value of the statement, let's see, num2 greater than num1. So, is num2 greater than num1? In this instance, it is. Okay, so var3 is going to have the value true in it. Let's go and look at that. It does. Now, if I reverse that sign, okay, and I make it less than, not greater than, and I rerun, well, now it's false. So now I'm creating a variable depending on the relationship between two numbers. I'm looking at two numbers, and I'm looking at what the relationship. I can also see if they're equal. Remember last video when I told you about assignment versus equals? Now we're doing equals, but it's two equal sign. So is num1 equal to num2? No, of course it's not, so it's still false. Okay? Is it not equal to num2? That is true, because num2 is not equal to num1, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, to continue our theme, you might be saying, hey, that's great. So what? Who cares? This is why we're going to care. Let me do this. We are going to start looking at numbers and making decisions based on what we find. And the way we're going to do that is with a structure called an if-then. So I'm going to say if. Now, usually in other languages, you'll put your condition in parentheses. Python does not force us to do that. So I'm going to say if num2 is greater than num1, and then I'm going to make a colon, and I'm going to say enter, and you're going to see that idle indents by 4. Okay? Anything indented by 4 now creates a code block that's going to get run if my conditional is true. So if num2 is greater than num1, in our case it is, we're going to do something. So let's just say print greater than and be happy about it. Okay? And I say that. Yay, greater than. It works. Now, what if I reverse it? Is num2 less than num1? It's not true. So, is that line going to be run? No, it won't. Let's see. So nothing happens. But sometimes nothing happens isn't the best thing in the world. So, in Python, we use something called an else. So, we are going to print greater than if it's greater than, but we are going to print less than if it's not. So now, when I run things, oh, I know I want to save idle. Now it says less than. I'm going to make that capital so it matches. Okay? Now, because of what we, get rid of that. Because of what we did here, we don't want to be playing around with the sign anymore, because if I play around with the sign, oh yeah, I guess it does work. I'd have to change the number. Now, is num2 greater than num5? No, it is not. So it will get your else, and then you'll get less than. So it works that way now. Okay? All right. That's basically why we want to do Booleans, because you will also see that if I take var3 and make it equal to num2 greater than num1, I can just put the Boolean there. Okay? So we'll use the condition here to create a Boolean variable and then just have the Boolean variable in the test. And if we run that, you'll see you get the same result. Okay? So that's why we have Boolean variables, because we're going to compare numbers and test numbers and create conditions, and we want to know if those conditions are true or false. And if they're true, we're going to do something based on this if. All right? There's one more thing I want to show you with this particular situation. But I don't want to show it to you like this. I think I can show it to you in another way. So I'm going to use our little trick to block out this code, and then I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it num3, and I'm going to say num3 is 40. And then I'm going to say if num3 is greater than, let's say 50, print GT for greater than. Okay? And then I'm going to say else print less than. All right, so let's see what we get when we run this. It says less than because it's 40 and I'm testing for 50. So what happens if we say 60? Now it says greater than because it's greater than. Okay, I'm in pretty good shape. So I've got some code that works here, right? And it works really well. Works really well? No, there's one thing that doesn't work here. Can you guys guess? What happens if the number is 50? I run it. It says less than, but is that true? Okay. I tested to see if it was greater than. It's not, because it's equal to. So it didn't run this block, but it automatically else to print less than. Is that really true? No, because they're the same. The reason I do this is because I want to show you that comparison operators and then things like we're doing don't necessarily create binary conditions. It doesn't necessarily mean true or false. In this case, there are three possible answers. You could be less than, you could be greater than, but you could also be equal to. Okay? So what I do is I use something called an elif. It says, is num greater than 50? Do greater than. Then I say elif num3, is it less than 50? And if so, then I print lt. Now, and I'll explain this. So, if num3 greater than 50, I print greater than. Then I do another test, but it's kind of an else too, so we call it an elif. And I say if, oh, my OCD won't allow that to stand. Elif num3 less than 50, then I print less than 50. So now I've checked to see if it's greater than. If it wasn't, I've checked to see then less than. What's the only possibility left if neither of those two are true? The only possibility is that it's equal. So I don't even test for equality. I just print equal if it's equal. So now, if I've got a 40, it says less than. If I've got a 60, it says greater than. But now, if I have a 50, it's going to say, hey, is it greater than? No. Hey, is it less than? No. So it's going to say else equal. And it does. Okay? So I just wanted to show you that so that you're aware that in a lot of these cases, sometimes you don't have a binary situation. And it looks like you do. So a lot of times you won't be prepared for that. But always logically think through what you're dealing with, especially when you're dealing with ifs. Okay? All right, then I am going to put that down there. And then I will 1, 2, 3. Because I'm going to show you one more thing. How do I want to do this? I am going to say num4 is equal to, let's say 70 this time. Now, what if I want to see if num4 is in a range? Let's say I want to see if num4 is greater than 50 but less than 100. So the first thing I'm going to say is if num4 is greater than 50, print greater than 50, yay. But now I want to see if it's less than 100. So I'll say if num4 less than 100, and then I'll say print also less than 100. Okay? Now that's legal. I can have an if within a block from an if. Actually, later on, you're going to learn about nested if else and thing like that. I run this code, and it says, yeah, it's greater than 50. It's also less than 100, but that's not very elegant. What if I wanted to do it all in one line? Okay? I can do that. The way I can do that is by using a Boolean operator in my conditional. I can say if num is greater than 50 and num4 is less than 100, print like that. So what's going to happen? Num4 is 70. Okay? So is num4 greater than 50? Yes. So that is true. And is num4 less than 100? In this case, yes. So that is true. True and true. Remember truth tables. Remember looking at all that. Is true. So this is true, and this line will get printed. And there you go. So now if I'm out of that range, if I'm 100, okay, which won't go off because it wants it to be less than 100, so 100 won't trigger it. Yes, idle. I get nothing because I don't have an else. So you know what? Let's give myself an else. Print not in range. Good enough. Okay, so now if I run it, it says not in range. And a little hello, I got that out of there. And it should do the same thing for 50. Let's find out. Not in range, right? But the minute we go 51, we're good to go. We get to test our boundaries, okay? So you can use Boolean operators to put conditionals together. Now, if I wanted to, I could also do an OR. But there's an interesting situation here. Think about it. If num4 is greater than 50 or num4 is less than 100, that's always going to be true. Think about it. It's a tautology. Well, if I do 2, it's going to be true. If I do 1,000, it's going to be true. Because if you think about it now, I've removed the bounds when I do the OR. Okay? So this isn't a very good example. I'm going to say if num4 is equal to 8. Okay, so we'll do a little trick. So if num4 is greater than 50, which it is in this instance, or num4 is equal to 8. So let's just do it here. Okay, greater than 10, which it isn't anymore, so I shouldn't say that. I should just say greater than 50. Good enough. Okay, which that obviously is, so now I do 20, and it tells me no, not in range. Or not in range isn't good anymore because it's not that. But I have a trick number because I have that OR in there, and I says, or if it's equal to 8, go ahead and print greater than 50. So it's kind of like a backdoor, and it works. Okay? So you have that OR in there. You can do OR conditions. If either of these is true, that line's going to run. So is num4 greater than 50? No, it's not. It's 8. But in this case, it's equal to 8. So yes, that's true. This is an OR, so I'm going to print what's there. Okay? Now you also have a descriptive thing called not, which basically takes a Boolean and turns it around. So if num4 not equal to 8, in this case, that's false, but the not will turn around and make it true. So that'll still work, right? Yes, it does. All right? But it won't work. Say I make it a 9. Okay, it says not in range. Why? Is num4 greater than 50? No, that's false. Okay? Is num4 not equal to 8? Yeah, that's true. Okay? Because num4 is a 9. It is not equal to 8. But the not reverses it and turns that true into a false. So I have false or false. That is false. I do not run this line. I jump down to the else and I print not in range, which you can see over there. Okay? All right. That is all I'm going to do, tinkering around with Booleans and tinkering around with Boolean operators, as I always do. Well, let's do this first. Because we can. We run the grand finale. Not that impressive. Sometime soon they'll start getting impressive. I'm going to take this code and I'm going to put it up on Sakai for you. So you're going to have rev2.py to play around. And now you have review video number 2. Announcements. You just saw the video 2 days ago, so there's no real changes or more announcements and stuff like that. A couple things I wanted to bring up. One, I'm going to do another video for you. You'll probably get it in the middle of the week. You don't have to wait for that video before starting to attack your homework assignments, which you'll get on Tuesday. It's just a video real quick for 15 minutes. I'm going to do a penny change program. You're going to see how I get started, how I do comments, how I start doing things, and we're going to use a lot of the skills that we're learning in this very, very beginning stage of getting familiar with Python. We'll do some arithmetic. We'll be using if-thens. We'll be doing stuff along those lines, okay? Two things that we're going to talk about going forward is how I like these units to run, but I'm probably going to mention this more in the first class. I also, this semester, want to, need to, but don't really need to because you guys haven't done anything yet. We need to drive home the academic integrity thing because we had an issue with people getting a little fast and loose with their code last semester. So you need to make sure that the code that you give Hans and I is your own. All right, but we'll get more into that when we meet in person on Tuesday the 31st, okay? So use this video. You now have your slides. You now have your Zell readings. You now have review video 1. You now have this, review video 2. And now you'll get the homework assignments and you'll be able to, you know, have some resources to attack them. They're not hard. As you're going to see, as I talk about in the 101 document, and as we'll talk about in class, this is a paint job, okay? I try to apply things in 3 layers. You get the initial hit where you have to engage with the resources, the slides, the readings, the videos, and you have to absorb everything. Then you get the second coat. That's when you get your assignments, okay? A week into it. And then you can go back to your resources and look at what you have to look at to get the assignments done and engage with them a second time. Then you get the finishing coat at the end of the units because you're going back to your resources and engaging with them in order to do your quiz. So I try logically to set this up as a 3-pass method so that you're engaging with these resources on 3 separate occasions for 3 separate reasons. And it usually works. I tell you this because a lot of people get caught up. They procrastinate. They'll look at the first couple of videos and go, I took a C course once and this crap is easy. And forget this. I'll just wait for the assignments. And then all of a sudden, this is really easy. You know, I'll just wait till the last weekend before the quiz and I should be able to get it done. Boom, boom, boom. Then Unit 3 hits. You'll understand what I'm talking about when Unit 3 hits. Then Unit 3 hits and everyone's like, oh! They go that first weekend. They go the one weekend that they think they're going to get everything done, and they can't. And I need extra time. I need this. And then all of a sudden, I got a crib with a bunch of babies in it. Don't do that to yourself. Don't procrastinate. Do these units the way you're supposed to do these units. Take the first week of the unit, engage with the resources. Then the second week, beginning of the week, you do your assignments. Then you read up a little bit to do that quiz. It's not a quiz. It's a one-day open book assignment. You do that assignment. You're going to do great. You're going to do awesome. You procrastinate. You try to do everything in the last 3 days. It's going to bite you. It's going to bite you in the rear end. And I don't want that to happen to you, all right? But we will deal with that stuff when we talk in class, all right? Then I'm going to get out of here. You have a good day, and I will talk to you later. All right, bye-bye.